and dive into our topic tonight, midlife, the perfect time to take sole custody of your life and live your dreams. That's what we're talking about. We've got more time available for many of us without having to commute to an office. I know some people are returning to doing that. And disruption in our lives, everything changing. We've got all kinds of new patterns, and everything that we ever thought was normal is no longer normal. All of this stuff is happening, has created an awakening for a lot of people that I know I've talked to, and maybe you've talked to about this as well, that things have kind of really surfaced, right? It's like, whoa, what is really happening? And it's taken the cover maybe off of a lot of things for you. So, oh, great. We have more people joining, Karen and Amanda and Tina. Fantastic. So there's an awakening that is taking place that I think for a lot of people is very, very powerful and really caused them to question, am I living the life that I want to live? Am I really happy? Maybe, with this pandemic, I've realized that I want to live a much simpler life with less stuff. There's been a lot of uncluttering or decluttering, I should say, that's taking place for people. It's just, things just get much, much clearer when we have more time to really sort of evaluate sort of the quality of our experience, right, in life. And so we're woke for a lot of us, and particularly at midlife. I think, and most of us, by the way, guys, in our group are at this stage of life. And so that's another reason I thought this topic would be of great value. Midlife, the perfect time to take sole custody of your life and live your dreams. We're at month 5 here, living at one of the hardest times in our country and really in the world. There's a level of fatigue I think people are experiencing as well. And the current situation that we're in, I think, would cause a person of any age to really ask themselves these questions. Am I living the life that I truly want to be living? Am I really happy? And sort of realizing some things that sometimes busyness can mask, right? When we just don't have time to think about things, or we're running from week to week. But that has not, I think, been the norm for a lot of us. So, especially for people at midlife, which begins at 45. When I started really researching, getting more involved in helping people at midlife, 45 just seemed really young to me, but it is true. It's midlife is 45. If you live to be 90, that's a great life. But I think of it as sort of 45 to 60-ish, right? And certainly the people here in our group. There's a newfound sense of urgency to maybe fix some things in our lives, because when we're at midlife, that is a marker that we pretty much are at halfway point or more in our life, which is different. And even the word midlife, I think can be a bit of a trigger for some people. It can conjure up images of, getting older or not being as vital. And I've actually, some of you in the group have shared with me about not feeling as relevant at midlife. We got to change that, right? So, and even asking, is this all there is to life, at this point? So I've even heard people say, gosh, do I even matter as much? Because a lot of the advertising that I see on television and social media, it seems to be really geared to much younger people. So all of this stuff, kind of comes to the forefront when we are at this midlife point. And then you layer in a global pandemic and it's like the lights are on, right? So I think this is why for many of us, we have just really begun to see things a little differently in the last couple of months than before COVID-19. So it should not be a shock to us that 1 in 4 people say that they've had some kind of crisis, midlife crisis, because of these newfound realities. And then sometimes people have them as a result of things, which unfortunately many people have had to experience recently, of losing a job or losing a loved one or facing an empty nest. I know we have lots of empty nesters here in our group. Or some other kind of major life change, maybe not really knowing what our true purpose is anymore. Our identity is shifting to be something different. Or we're helping taking care of elderly parents while raising children at home and trying to work. So, and sometimes people feel like at this time of their life that, they may have just missed the boat. And I'm here to tell you that's not true, but I know people do feel that way. It's like, oh, I'm 50 and, I wish I shoulda, coulda, but it's never too late. It's never too late. So, when we're aware though, that we are at one place in our life and we want to be somewhere else, we cannot not know that. And I think for many of us during this last 4 or 5 months, those things, as I said, have sort of come to the surface, things that maybe we're not as happy about in our life, and we realize that it's time to make the change. So that's step one, right, is being aware that it's time to make the change before we can take sole custody of our life. And we realize that time is moving on. Time doesn't slow down, and life needs to go on. But here's the thing, we can't keep denying that maybe there's energy that needs to be put towards a change that we actually want to make because we're not happy with the status quo. On top of that, knowing we want to make changes, oh my gosh, how do I get started with this? All of that can create even more anxiety about how do I even move forward with the first step. Making changes, deciding to change, and then making those transitions, which is where the real work is, takes effort. And it takes a lot of, soul searching to figure out, for I know many of you, the what's next question, right? So this realization that midlife is no longer out there somewhere one day, I'm going to have this experience, is something to come to terms with. And particularly if we don't know how to close that gap between where we are today and where we want to be. We've realized that there are some gaps, there's some things to change, let's say, and now what do I do, right? So what I do know is that midlife is not a time to stay in denial about the changes that we now know we want to make. It's like a wake up, right? But when we're busy, we can very easily deny the things that aren't right in our life. So, oh, those things will get sorted out. I'll deal with it someday. And we know someday never really comes. And we tell ourselves things like, oh, I'll deal with that when I have more time. And we know that, no one has more time than anybody else. And we don't have all the time in the world to make these changes. And midlife does not have to include some kind of crisis. That really is a myth. It's just another phase of our life. And I like to look at it as the beginning of what can be the best time of our life, right? As long as we have the right mindset and a plan to make our dreams come true, to live the life that we want to live, all right? So one of the silver linings of this pandemic, as I said when I started, is that it's created this pause, more time to give people a great amount of time to really look in the mirror and to sort of assess, what's working, what isn't, am I happy, am I not? I'm feeling all these emotions from all of the stressors. Maybe some of those stressors are things that I know deep in my heart I need to change. Maybe it's a change in relationship. Maybe it's a change in a job. Maybe it's getting people out of your life that are constantly triggering you and causing conflicts or whatever it is, so that you can get more of what you want in life. But here's the gold nugget. Here's what I really know. Here's one of the main things I want you to take away from tonight. When we get to this time of our life, which we call midlife, experience has taught us two really important things. We know so much more at midlife about who we really are and who we want to be. If we're not there yet, we have an idea of who we really want to become before we leave this earth. And the second thing is we know more about how the world really is. And those two critical insights help us be able to focus on what is next for us in our life. So we can really imagine and dream and create a plan to have the life that we want. It may be for you at midlife, it's not a drastic change. Maybe it's just some subtle shifts that you want to make, like maybe going from full-time to part-time work. Maybe it's you want to volunteer more, or you want to pick up some hobbies that you've pushed aside for the last 25 years and they really make you happy and you want them back in your life. Maybe it's developing a more positive mindset, because I know for many of us, we didn't have the tools to manage what, is going on now. And having a mindset can give you that inner strength that you need to get through anything, right? And that's something that you develop. We're not born with that. Whatever it is, or it is a total reinvention that you really want to get to create the life that you've never been able to live. I've talked with some of you, you've never been able to live your dreams, and now it's your turn. And it's really important. So I see we've got Susie and Heather and Robin have joined us. Thank you so much. So here's the deal, guys. Maybe, midlife is what I really call a mile marker. It informs us that it's time to magnify our dreams. It's kind of now or never, right? Let's do it now and commit to figuring out what it is that we want to make happen so that our future is the one that we've always wanted. If it's not there right now, then we can create it. And if we don't do this, we can get paralyzed. So for those of you who are listening and you're like, I know you're speaking to me. This is what I've been going through. I've realized that I'm not happy in my marriage or my job, or I've got to, whatever it is that I got to make these changes. I want to encourage you not to just slink back into complacency. You've gotten this data. You now know, and you can't unknow what's not working in your life. And we can all get paralyzed by fear if something feels really overwhelming. I really want you to push through that. And again, take sole custody of your life, right? We can stay stuck so easily, right? And we can become resentful if we don't do this. I'm never having our time, as I said. And we can even get physically ill from all the stress of not living the life that we know we want to live. If we just live for somebody else's life, for example, right? So why not take time now to figure out the path forward? We've got more time. Let's take advantage of it. Be proactive. Life doesn't stop because we're living through a global pandemic. Time doesn't slow down because we're in a global pandemic. We can't put our joy and fulfillment and freedom on hold. Now is the time to reflect, evaluate, reprioritize your dreams. So when things are past this pandemic, when we're on the other side of this, and we're going to get there, you will be ahead in your plan in taking action to have the life that you truly deserve and desire. And that's going to benefit you much sooner than if you wait for the someday or the better time or when we're through this. No, start now. It's never too late to figure out what we want. I've done this myself. I know what I'm talking about. Now I've helped other people do it. It's never too late. So you can start tomorrow taking sole custody of your life so you can live your dreams. And if this is something that you want to do, here's my first recommendation for you. Start talking about it. Start declaring what you want. Journal it, write it down. But even better, tell somebody. If it's a family member that you trust, who you know would support your dreams, if it's a friend that you trust that you can share this with, maybe a counselor or a coach, maybe you're working with somebody already that can support you in these transitions that are going to be there for you to go through. But they're so worth it. And having somebody to go through it with, that will help hold you accountable, because it's one thing to declare, it's another thing to do the work, right? And we all need support. We all need coaching. I've had a coach. We all need somebody to help us get through these things. So you can begin the process by carving out some time to do this reflection. Maybe you've done some of it, but when you're looking at your whole life, changing parts of it or all of it, it's going to take some time. And that's okay. It's a great investment. So you're going to need some tools, like some great questions, that require that intentional focused time. And you might remember that a week or two ago, I created for you guys in this group, before I shared it with anybody else, 21 questions that can change your life. It's an ebook, it's a PDF, I can send it to you. And those questions will help jumpstart some of the questions that everybody should ask themselves, particularly at midlife, because it's some real soul searching stuff that will go on as you go through that and answer those questions for yourself. And the answers that you give yourself are going to inform you as to the direction you need to take, the actions you need to take. So if that is something that is of interest to you, all you got to do is private message me here, and I will send you the 21 questions that can change your life. So guys, what's the alternative? If you know that the things you want to change, and you know that you're not happy with the status quo, let's either get started tomorrow, or the alternative is not to take any action. And that's not going to change anything, right? You're going to stay the same. And, you know, that's what a lot of you are saying, that's not really making you happy. So nothing's going to change in a month or 6 months or a year or longer, and still being very mindful of what's not working. So it requires you declaring that now is the time. And no one wants to get to the end of their life wishing they had done things differently, wishing they had maybe taken tomorrow and started the process of figuring out what were those things they wanted to really change, and what were some of the steps to get them to make those changes happen. You don't want to get to the end of your life and wish, oh, I could have spent so much more energy becoming who I knew that I could be. You know, 72% of Americans have that regret. American Psychological Association, 72% have that regret of never becoming who they thought they could be. That's pretty amazing. So I don't want that for you. And I'm going to wrap up here with a quote. I posted it early this week, but it's so good, it's worth repeating, by Anna Quindlen. Some of you probably know she's a very great author, many books, but this is the quote that I want to share with you. There are thousands of people out there with the same degree you have. And when you get a job, there'll be thousands of people doing what you want to do for a living. But you are the only person alive who has sole custody of your life, your particular life, your entire life. So it is up to each of us to claim sole custody of our life and do the work to have the life that we want. And midlife is a great time to declare it. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. And Lori, I want to get into some of your questions here. So again, it's up to us, guys. And if you want that PDF, just private message me, give me your email, and I'll send it to you that way. And just to wrap up again, some of you know that I do exactly this work with clients. And I do this work online in a group coaching format. I do it a couple times a year, and I'm running my next one August 3rd. If that interests you, just send me a private message and I'll share more details with you through a short conversation. So if you're ready, if you're like, hey, I know what I want to change, and it's like, I'm just ready. I don't know how, and I don't have a family member, or I don't have a counselor or a coach or a good friend that I want to do this work with, then perhaps I can help you on your journey. And we can talk and figure out if that is a fit. But up-leveling our life never shows up on our doorstep. We have to go get it. We have to initiate the things that we want in life, and we have to go after it. So that's really a wrap up of what I wanted to share. And I hope to see you guys again on Friday for Friday Q, where I answer a question that a member of our group submits. And anybody here can submit a question to me. Just private message me something that you'd like for me to answer, and I will get to it. I got a few in the queue already, but I'd love to have more. So I'd like to have a couple months ahead so that I can prepare and answer those questions on Friday at 12 noon Central Time. Now, let's see. Lori, so if I get to your question, sometimes in the feed, yes, I can send the PDF. Lori, if I haven't already sent it to you, just private message me and I'll get it to you. Amanda, I'll get it to you. Lori, totally. Lori, good advice. Okay, Lori, I think you had another question that I am not able to see. For some reason, the chat box has moved on. But guys, you know, you can put a message here anytime if anything that I covered tonight you want to ask more about. And I want to close by saying a huge thank you to everyone who showed up tonight. You could tell I'm very passionate about this because, again, I have lived this experience myself, having moved to a whole new city just 5 years ago and really reinvented my life in many ways. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And yes, it takes some work. It takes some soul searching. It takes some asking tough questions, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. All right, Susie, I've got you. Excellent. Anybody else, just drop your name here and I'll send you the PDF. So guys, thanks so much for showing up, and have a great rest of your evening. And I hope to see you Friday Q, 12 o'clock Central Time right here. Take care.